Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So have you ever looked at a palette and thought about all the different ways you could change it, whether it's adding more mattes or more shimmers or maybe less of those things, changing certain colors that you feel like don't belong, or maybe getting rid of like a black shade that you never wear? I do that all the time, and it's very rare that a palette has every single color that I want it to have. So that's what this video is going to be about today, and I am collabing with two of my favorite YouTubers, Mandy and Andrea Matillano. I love their channel so much. If you haven't checked them out yet, I'll leave them linked down in the description box below. I think they do awesome videos, and they both seem like such amazing people and just really down to earth. And watching them is kind of like hearing makeup recommendations from a friend, and I feel like we kind of have very similar tastes in makeup, so I get so many recommendations from watching them. So definitely head over and check them out if you haven't already. And I also want to thank Mandy for reaching out with this video idea, because I think it is so awesome and so much fun. So anyway, we decided on 5 different palettes in our collection that we would change. So I picked those out. It wasn't too hard because I can think of quite a few that aren't like my absolute perfect palette. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. And let's start with the Norvina palette. So when this came out, I thought it was going to be like my perfect palette because of all the beautiful cool tones that it has in here. And really, it's one of my favorites from the ABH line. I think it's gorgeous no matter what, but there are just a couple of things that I would change about this palette if I could. The first one being this eccentric shade right here. It's kind of like a warm toned, like mustardy brown, and it kind of doesn't, to me, seem to fit in with the rest of the palette because so much of this is cooler toned. And another shade I don't use as much in this palette as the other two is this one called Dazzling right here. It's kind of just like a medium brown shimmer. It's nothing like overly special, and it, to me, doesn't really go with the vibe of this palette either. I like the rose gold shade because I think that one like has a little bit of pink to it, and it goes really well with some of the purples. And also the shade Summer is a gold, and that pretty much goes with everything. But with this one, I don't know, for me, I just feel like this is a little bit on the deeper side for a shimmer shade, and usually I like to put lighter shimmer shades on my lid. So here's a quick look at the palettes before and after, and the one on the right hand side of your screen is what I chose. So as you'll see, I replaced that warm tone shade Eccentric with a purple matte because I think that's the one thing this palette is really missing. You do have the shade Soul on the other end, but it's kind of like a bluish purple, and it's a little bit lighter, so I went a little bit deeper. I just felt like this palette could really use a deeper matte. And then the shade directly above that, which was Dazzling, that brown shade, I ended up changing that to a really cool toned, kind of like icy purple that I think would look beautiful on the lid with some of these other colors. So just by changing up those two shades, I made this palette even more perfect for me. But I would love to hear what you think, because I know a lot of you have said that you like having a contrasting shade, like a warm tone to pair with cool. I don't do that all the time. It's very rare. So usually if I'm using cool tones, I like to just do an all cool tone look, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Another palette that I definitely would make some changes to if I could is the Bibi palette from Natasha Denona. So I really love this palette. I love the earthy toned vibe that it has, but my main problem with this one is just that there's a lot of shades in here that look like repeats of other shades. You have kind of these two right here that look so similar. You also have this one and this one, which look really similar. And I get why she did that, because one of them is a cream and then the other kind of corresponding shade is a powder. And she did that because, like, I watched a video of hers when she first launched this palette, and she basically said she did that because she wanted you to be able to have both textures in those shades, and the creams can really be sheared out so that they look a little bit different on the eye than the powder ones do. But for me, I don't know, I don't really see it. I think you could build up those cream shadows and make it look like the powder one, or you could shear out the powder one and make it look like the cream. So I hate having a lot of repetition in this palette. So I'll show you what it looks like. And as you can see in the after, what I did is the one all the way to the left, which was that deep burgundy shade, I swapped that out for a deep charcoal gray because I think it would look really beautiful with those two that are down in the bottom row, those cooler tones. I think it would be a nice addition just to add like that deep gray to the outer corner if I was doing a look with those grayish green shades. And then I also, to kind of pair nicely with that, on the right hand side of the palette where that orangey shade was, I replaced that that one with kind of like a grayish green that's a bit deeper than the one in the bottom row called Sculpture. I think that this one is such a beautiful shade. I think it would pair well with gold. I also think it would look beautiful with those orangey and yellow earth tones as well. So those are my changes for the Bibi palette. And next up we have the BH Cosmetics Hangin' in Hawaii. And this one is another one of my favorites as far as formula goes, but similar to the Bibi palette, there's a lot of repeat shades in here. You have these two orangey shades which look almost the same. You also have just a bunch of browns that look very similar to each other. And then these shimmer shades right in this row. It's like they're all a variation of basically like a champagne shimmer, just kind of going from lightest to deepest. So I decided to change things up a little bit and avoid some repetition. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I came up with. So if you look at the second row down, the second from the right, I ended up changing that orangey matte shade to kind of like an orchid or pinkish purple shade. And this one to me looks almost like the front cover of the palette, which when you look at it, you would think that there's a shade like this in here, but there really isn't. And then in the next row down, the third row, second one from the left, I changed that champagne gold shade to more of a pink shimmer to go along with the other shade that I added. You know, so adding some brighter colors just makes it seem a little bit more tropical, a little bit more Hawaii. But other than that, I really do like the palette. I think the formula on it is amazing. So then next up I have the Melt Gemini palette, and this is one that I don't wear very often, and it's not because of the color story, because I actually think the color story is beautiful. I'm wearing it on my eyes today. Actually, I'm wearing a combination of this one and Hangin' in Hawaii, and I'll tell you why in a second. But first of all, the reason that I think I don't wear this as often is just because it doesn't have many shimmer shades in it, and that's normally what I'm putting on my lid. I'm not a fan of using just all mattes for a look. So with shimmer shades, you only have this one down here, which is called Gemini, and then you have Goals, which is this green, and that's it. So I would really like to see another shimmer shade in this palette, maybe to replace this black that I doubt I would use anyway, and I really don't use them to line my eyes either. So that's what I ended up doing, especially because the Gemini shade right here is more of a sheer, almost like a topper, so it can't even really stand alone as a shimmer shade for the lid. And that's why I ended up using the Hangin' in Hawaii palette. I used the matte shades. I used this kind of mustardy orange and also this warm brown as my base, but then for my lid, I ended up using this shade from Hangin' in Hawaii, which is Waikiki right here. So this one, the gold just paired perfectly with it. And then I topped it with that Gemini shade. But really, if you try to put the Gemini shade on just by itself, it's really, really sheer and it kind of doesn't show up all that well. So let me go ahead and show you the before and after and the color that I chose for this palette. So what I ended up doing is creating a new shimmer shade that's kind of like a beautiful yellow with like a green shift to it. I think this would pair so beautifully in this palette because it kind of looks like that last color all the way to the end, but that one's a matte shade. And I was really thinking it would be stunning to have a shimmer shade in that color. And I think just by adding that extra shade and taking out the black, I would probably use this palette a little bit more. And then the last palette is the Huda Beauty New Nudes palette. So this one is almost perfect for me. I love all the tones in here. I think it's such a gorgeous palette. The formula is really good as well. But as I mentioned in the past, I don't really wear pressed glitters on my eyes, and this one has two of them right here. So for me, these are wasted shades in this palette, and it's unfortunate because I think if these were shimmer shades, I would totally wear them. So that's what I ended up doing, and I created a couple of shimmer shades that I think would go pretty well with the color story of this palette. So the first one that I created was kind of like a light gold champagne color, and this one's a little bit lighter than the marbled gold shadow that's in the top row. And also those shades tend to dry out. They're a little bit more of a cream formula, so I wanted to add a regular pressed shimmer into this palette that wouldn't do that. And then the one next to it, I replaced that glitter with a purpley pink shimmer that I think just pairs really nicely in this palette. It kind of plays off of that dusty purple that's all the way to the left-hand side in the middle row. I do think this palette is really beautiful, but for me and my personal taste, I would prefer if they had put shimmer shades in place of the glitters. So anyway, guys, those are my 5 palettes. And just quickly before we go, I want to let you know what makeup I'm wearing on my face today, because I always get questions about it, and sometimes I forget to put it in the description box. So I definitely will do that, but I just wanted to quickly walk through what I have on. So for foundation, I'm wearing the Maybelline Dream Radiant Liquid in the shade Fair Ivory. And for my lashes, I'm wearing the Essence Lash Princess. I already told you guys what colors I was wearing on my eyes from the palettes. For bronzer, I'm wearing Take Home the Bronze from the Balm, and then on my cheeks, I'm wearing the e.l.f. Bite Size Face Duo in the shade Cantaloupe. So this is like that really pretty yellowy shade, and I think it goes really nicely with the eye look. And then on my lips, I'm also wearing e.l.f. This is the Sheer Slick lipstick in Golden Pear. So anyway, guys, that's everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Also, please don't forget to check out Mandy and Andrea's channels. They're going to be doing the same video, just with different palettes, or maybe some of them will be the same, who knows. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love if you would hit that subscribe button as well. I do tons of reviews, lots of drugstore makeup, and also haul videos every single Sunday talking about new makeup. So I hope you guys will stick around. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.